for the Central Coast has been hired, and he started on Monday. His name is Brian Coleman, and he is going to be kind of providing some broader assistance to the region, that Ventura to Santa Cruz County region that we cover. And he'll be specifically helping to convene around that surf table that we've been talking about and the surf process. So Brian is based in San Luis Obispo, actually. So again, just down the road from you guys. And I'll look forward to bringing him with me to a next meeting to introduce him to you all. And we can help talk about what his responsibilities will be. So two GoBiz folks in the Central Coast region to provide some assistance and help with you. And then I'll just add, I had a really good conversation with the new executive director for the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, Tara Goraya. And she has a significant interest in connecting with this group in particular, as well as San Benito County as a whole, because she's going to be playing a key role in this surf table also. And I was talking to her about this group, and she's new to this region, having relocated out here from Boston. But before that, she grew up in the Bakersfield area over in the Central Valley. So she's familiar, but is looking to make some connections. So Brian and Helena, with your okay, I'd like to extend an invitation for her to join you at an upcoming meeting also, so that you can meet her and you can ask her some questions, and perhaps she can provide you with some additional background on MBEP and future opportunities to engage as part of this regional effort. And I explained to her that you guys have great energy, you have a great interest in engaging, and she's very much looking forward to making that connection. So I just wanted to provide those two updates.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I definitely am interested in connecting and getting to know her better.
Perfect. Well, then maybe if it's okay with the group, I'll coordinate with Brian on a future date, and we'll make arrangements to add her as potentially an agenda topic, giving her a few minutes to provide a brief presentation and maybe a little Q&A with her at a future meeting. And Brian, if that's okay, I'll just coordinate with you.
Sure, and I can, when we set the date, which probably would be, well, we'll talk about it, but I would also provide the committee with some background information on the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, so that you can know the context. So
that would be great. And she, coming in her new role, one of the particularly as it relates to the surf table, she's going to be serving in a convening capacity for this tri-county region of Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey County. So context will be great for her as well. And then understanding how you all are going to be actively engaged with this tri-county region.
Perfect.
Thank you. Any questions for me? Okay, thanks.
okay. By the way, I just got a message from Luke saying he would not be attending the meeting. I think that we need to talk about that offline.
Okay.
Based on the message that I got. Okay.
So next up on our agenda, we were tasked with the group last week to go over the vision statement.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, we didn't get the biggest response from our group. And I just want to remind everyone that this is an important piece of what we're trying to accomplish in our group, is establishing the foundation so that we can kind of move forward. And it's important that we have active participation in everyone that's here. We're here for a common cause, and that's for the betterment of our community. And when everyone is not participating, it makes everything else harder. We can't move and progress in the way that we're wanting to in a meaningful way if we get partial participation or no participation at all. So I just want to advocate to the group that even if we have to do like a group format, maybe we need to meet in person so that we can build up some kind of a rapport so that we can activate this process, you know. And I'm actually going to pose it to the group now. What does everyone feel about us meeting in person? It was brought to my attention by Dawn that we can utilize the library. It should have enough social distancing to make people feel comfortable, or we can also utilize the City Hall area of our community. I know they're going to be moving towards a hybrid in the next couple of months, but right now, I still think there's enough room in there for us to have social distancing. Even if everyone doesn't participate, I know we all haven't met. And I think that's a critical piece that we're missing from our group is that connection piece, and meeting would be very instrumental. I met with Brian last week and Stephanie, and this was a part of our discussion last week. That's important for us to kind of unite our group together. There's a question from Mrs. B, looks like, or
Yes,
from Teresa.
We have two hands, Mrs. B and Teresa. So go ahead, Teresa.
Oh, there we go. I'm unmuted. Helena, I think that's an excellent idea. I've been meaning to just stop by and say hi and introduce myself, and it hasn't happened. And I would love to meet everybody on this group face to face instead of this Zoom.
Okay.
So
Mrs. B.
Excellent idea, Helena.
Sorry to cut you off.
I agree.
you.
I feel that once we get to know one another, we have names, but we have not connected. And I think being in person will help us make that connection, and we can, I think that will lead to us working together easier.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Darlene?
Yeah, I agree with that. Plus the process of doing mission and vision statements and planning what we're going to do next is actually done much easier when we are in person with all kinds of chart paper and masking tape and all that kind of stuff and markers. So any case, yes. And because just the stimulation of being in the same room with people actually gets our ideas flowing much easier, and it makes the process much easier. Okay.
Yeah, just the smell of markers is very stimulating.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so I do want to, we do have some input on vision statements. There was a memo circulated, there was a false start there on my part, but previous meeting I did give you a memo on the day because responses were late on the mission statement last time, and really don't have any choice except to give you stuff on the day of the meeting if that's the case. This time, people that did respond were a little earlier, but still, you know, the difficulty for me is that I don't have time to mull over the content of even a few of the vision statements if I have a couple of days advance notice. So it's just very difficult for me to do that and to assist the committee to move ahead without an ability to summarize things. And even if we meet in person, if we, as I think Helena stated, it's very difficult to move ahead unless the committee decides, and you certainly can, that with what the information that you have, that you're going to go forward and craft one and authorize me to, you know, do the heavy lifting in that regard, or, you know, go over them yourselves this evening and say what you like and say what you don't like about the individual vision statements that you did receive. And once you do say what you like and what you don't like, what you want to see changed from the individual statements, then I can use that information to put a vision statement together for your consideration. So we still can make progress on those if you want to just consider what you've received this evening. If not, you're going to meet again in another couple of weeks, and another couple of weeks gives you a chance to do it. You've got some work ahead of you anyway, and certainly can talk about subcommittees this evening and so forth. So it's not like if we don't do the vision statement this evening, we don't have another chance and we're hamstrung. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
And I have another thought to add to that, Brian. I received information from our former strategic planning committee, and I was taking a look at both their mission and their vision statement, and I wanted to send it to you today, but it was such last minute by the time I got to it. I figured I would just state it, and then we can put it in an email form and send it out to the group. But if you all just, give me a moment to just go over their mission statement, their vision statement. It says, our vision, San Juan Bautista is a vibrant, thriving community, cherishing its history, culture, heritage, the arts, and one another, honoring the needs of its residents and businesses, and offering the world a destination amidst boundless recreational opportunities and architectural resources, which was summing up some of the vision statements that I saw that were submitted. It was pieces of several of those. So I would like to just throw that into the teal, rewrite it. We can reword it, but I think it captured the essence of what we were trying to accomplish originally. I don't know, any thoughts?
Go ahead, Teresa.
I wasn't sure when I received the information from you, Brian, it looked like there was a sample vision statement that was the first section there, which was very comprehensive and very, it sort of gave us a view of where we were going. Besides just the, I feel like the mission statement is more condensed and I don't know, trying to cover everything. But the vision statement or the sample that you sent seemed to identify the areas that we really want to, I don't know, encompass. And I'm not sure if you can explain if that was the vision statement that you were thinking might be a way to identify our vision.
Yeah, I'd like to explain that just before. I apologize, Mrs. B, but the source of that vision statement was the work of the subcommittee. They didn't craft that vision statement. I used their input, when they met as a subcommittee to put that vision statement together. And so those themes that are in that vision statement came out of the subcommittee's conversation. There's just that bullet points and keywords and phrases and so forth, but enough so that vision statement just kind of popped out. So, that's the source from the subcommittee, if you will. And then the purpose of presenting that information to the committee as a whole was to sort of stimulate your thoughts about, gee, is this a great vision statement and what else would you like to see in it, if anything, or would you like to add more phrases or whatever? So, I think, at some point, seriously consider the input of the subcommittee, because that was their purpose. You established that subcommittee for that. So that's just what I wanted to say about the origin of that statement that I gave the committee last meeting. Okay, so Mrs. B?
I think that we've received enough information regarding the vision statement to make a decision tonight. We can always amend it later, but I think a lot of valuable time is being, I don't know if I'd say wasted, but not fully utilized in moving forward. The subcommittee did a great job. We had some additional input, but I think we have enough right now to make a decision about the vision statement, even if everybody did not participate, so that we can close this part of our agenda and move forward. And at a later date, if someone sees the need to add something else, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm ready to move forward as well. And I think we need to try to keep this simple and basic so that we can keep our vision clear and concise.
Okay, Teresa?
And I also think that
I'm guessing what Mrs. B's saying is that we accept that vision statement that the group had put together. It's comprehensive, I think, of what we need to do. But now I'm hearing Stephanie saying, keep it simple. Question.
Yeah, so what I would do is, if you want, my methodology here would be to take whatever input I get. Today's Wednesday. I'll take whatever input I can get before the end of the week on the vision statement put together by the subcommittee, including the material that I got for this meeting, and in addition to whatever Helena wants to provide. So again, by the end of the week, give me whatever else you think based on what you're reading in the subcommittee's subcommittee's version, or my take on the subcommittee's version. And then I will, by the middle of the week next week, I will give you a vision statement that reflects all of the input that I've received. And I'll take the guidance of the committee to make it simple, to make it complete and represent your thoughts. And then you can move forward from that. This is critical because the vision statement does set your agenda for what you're going to look at to achieve that vision. It's, as I said before, it's more of a programmatic thing. It's not just an empty exercise. So anyway, that's my suggestion to how to move forward.
I think that's a good idea. And as we get further into the process, where I'm sure we're going to glean new ideas and add to the vision that as we start moving forward, when we break out in subcommittees. And then, as I said, we can amend it. We can, as we really get into it and get more excited about what we're doing, and we start seeing progress excites me. And so once we get into it and get really involved, then the vision will become clearer.
I agree with that.
Well, I guess we don't have to vote on this. It's just a thought of the group, right, Brian?
That's correct. Yes. Well, you can direct me and I'll follow up. If you want to just direct me as I stated, then I will wait for you. Anybody else who wants to give me something by the end of the week, and then I'll move ahead and craft something that's a representative.
Well, that seems like the most direct path to go at this particular time. So I just hope that everyone who hasn't participated, go ahead and send Brian their thoughts so they can be an active participant in the group, and he can take those themes out of each of those and craft something that's clear, concise, and usable for us. So thank you, Brian, for offering your services up.
Of course.
We appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. Let me get back to my, okay, yeah, I was off searching for something. Okay, we'll do. And that's the consensus of the group, as I understand it. So that's what we'll do. Very good. So we have action items on the agenda, and Helena, sorry.
Yes. We do have we do have action items on the agenda to approve a mission statement, but I believe we approved those the last meeting, right?
Yeah, the mission statement that I think you adopted is in your minutes. You want me to put that up?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me get that. And in general, when you do stuff, it'll appear in your minutes. So let me get that. Okay, so can everyone see this?
Yes.
This is the mission statement right here in this italics.
Oh, that one I don't have that. Let me see if I can see it on this little
So you want me
screen.
to pull it up, make it bigger? Can you
It's just
see my
not allowed.
screen?
I can see your screen, but I'm on my phone.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
You want me to make it bigger?
difficult.
Well,
No,
why don't
no,
I
no.
read it?
Yeah, you go ahead and read it. There you go.
Okay, all right. Can everyone else see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the San Juan Bautista EDCAC's, and I'll spell it out actually, so that reads better. Mission is to engage, support, and attract local business to create a sustainable, diverse community that promotes, increases, and sustains economic opportunities and success, facilitates and promotes community activities that attract local citizens and tourists alike, and improves the quality of life in San Juan Bautista.
Thank you, Brian. So that is the mission statement that we have adopted. I believe there was 2 people who were not present. So I don't know if you were able to review that. But as Brian mentioned, it is in our approved minutes now.
Yeah, and if you want to change it, your minutes here would reflect that change. So no, not a problem.
So is there any comments from the group in regards to that mission statement that we approved?
Brian?
I move that we approve it.
It was approved, right?
Yes, it was approved last week. I mean, the last meeting.
Brian and Helena, this is Dana. I just have one observation, and this is coming from the tourism industry, and being actively engaged in that for many years. A term that likes to be used is visitors versus tourists. It's a term of art, and I would just offer up a suggestion to consider it, as it reflects a kind of a welcome around the visitor, that you're opening the door to a visitor to your destination and to your community, and has a welcoming feel to it, as opposed to the term tourist, which historically has kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit. So just one slight observation and suggestion for consideration. It's not a big deal at all, just an observation.
Okay, thanks, Dana.
I think it's an excellent observation.
Okay.
I second that.
It's a friendlier word.
Okay, very good. So let's have a motion to just change that one word, and any other change to this mission statement?
That should do it.
I think just changing the word tourist to visitor should be fine, and I go ahead and make a motion to do that.
Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by
Second by
Mrs. Lee. Sorry, Helena.
No worries.
Take a roll call vote now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. All right, so your next week's next meeting minutes will reflect that change, and it'll be in the minutes, restated in the minutes, as you've indicated.
Great.
Okay, very good. So let's
Then-
see here. Stop the share. Okay.
The next item under our actions is establish subcommittees. However, I had a discussion with Don this week as well as Brian, and Brian is actually working on getting some information from our economic development citizen, our economic development, no, excuse me, the strategic planning committee that was formed a couple of years ago. And there's their information that goes right into our strategic plan that was derived from that organization, as well, or that committee, as well as the general plan. So it was my thought that we receive those documents from Brian so we can review it and then better define what subcommittees we're looking at having. What are your thoughts on that, team group?
I think that's an excellent idea. Then we're not recreating the wheel. There is something already established that we can refer back to get ideas. And if we need to tweak it, that's fine, but at least it's a basis to start from.
Have any of those previous members been invited, or were they made aware of this organization?
only
I'm just curious.
Liz, I was on the strategic planning and on the a committee that I think Mrs. B is right. We don't need to recreate the wheel. There were committees that were identified in the strategic plan that I think would be easy for us to fall into. And yes, I was one of on the recreation and arts.
Okay, Stephanie.
Yes, I agree with Mrs. B and Teresa as well. I think that's a great idea.
Let's see, Beverly.
I would agree also. I also served on the old strategic plan committee, and the committees are already established. So here again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And the information is there. If you don't have it, I've got a big file.
Okay, all
So
right.
I believe that the strategic plan is 18 pages from my discussion, and we still have to review it. However, on those subcommittees, there are there were 5 subcommittees. Brian mentioned to our group in our last meeting that we wanted to probably start out with 3 of them. So it would be my recommendation that after we review everything, all the data that was already outlined with the previous committee, that we make priorities on which ones we wanted to establish within our group. Mind you, that group had 16 members. We have 11, but we do have an advisory team as well. But yes, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. So before you move forward on that, Helena and Stephanie, I did cut and paste our conversation regarding subcommittees into just a 1-page sheet. And I know we're going to get into a conversation about the strategic plan subcommittees in relation to economic development. There are many different subcommittees. Some don't relate specifically to economic development. But if you want, I can put up some of the recommendations that we got from Dana and from Renee on their thoughts and our conversation last week. Would that be helpful or not?
It'll be helpful. We want to respect the fact that we did get input from our advisory team,
Okay.
and at least acknowledge it. And so it'll help us frame our thoughts once we review the documents that we're going to be receiving.
Okay, all right. I'm going to put that up on the screen then, just for reference. And so here are some ideas. You know, as it said here, this is subcommittee thoughts from, this is Helena and Stephanie and my conversation, we do a weekly pre-agenda preparation meeting. And so these are thoughts from that meeting. So let's see here. So this is not actually a subcommittee. So here you have it, and I'm going to send this out to the group if you like. But in addition to whatever else we send you, business accessibility and enhancement. Careful look at the obstacles to business formation, establishment, and operation in San Juan Bautista. And that, you know, that's a careful look at how businesses relate to the city, maybe the county as institutions. And what are the obstacles to business formation, establishment, and operation that we can really do something about? So that's a subcommittee. A second subcommittee would be an economic development strategy, as Helena mentioned, focusing on preparing San Juan Bautista to participate in the SEDS and the SURF programs. And so that's really high level look, and I think that may be coincidental with what Helena is talking about. And an immediate business support and enhancement subcommittee, which would look at or be responsible for ongoing attention to immediate, near-term, and immediate business resources. That is, you know, there are micro grants available, there are ARP grants available, there may be other grants and resources available to businesses. This subcommittee would be on the hunt for things that will benefit our businesses and bring those to the Citizen Advisory Committee to then recommend to the City Council. It's a real action-oriented subcommittee. And certainly, I think that the Business Accessibility and Enhancement Subcommittee would be action-oriented also, but this would be more in the the Business Accessibility and Enhancement Subcommittee would be more in the sort of the mode of suggesting great changes for us city staff to consider and recommend to the board, to the City Council. So those are the three subcommittees that we talked about, and they're really programmatic, get right to the heart of what economic development should be all about here. So those are thoughts. And these are second category here, subcommittee thoughts from Renee, marketing development, workforce development, transportation, rural development, and strategy. So these are, I think, a little bit of a subset of what you're going to end up with when you look at the economic development strategy. So that's just a thought there. I think they're all relevant topics. And then the third are subcommittee thoughts from Dana, and subcommittee will look at partnerships, look at policy, look at communication. These are, I think, ways of looking at topics that were identified in the first three sets. So, you know, you want to look at partnerships, you want to look at policies, you want to look at how people communicate and who to communicate with and when with respect to these thoughts. And so they may be operational things that these other subcommittees want to consider as they do their work. So my thought is that these two ideas are subsumed under these more specific and action-oriented subcommittees that are mentioned in the first three bullets. And again, this came out of our conversation that we had in preparation for this agenda as a way of easing the conversation with the committee as a whole. And I'll just leave this up for a minute because this is brand new, and you'll be talking about now whether this makes sense to you. I think what Helena mentioned, as I said before, is in this second bullet point. So you have enough people to have three subcommittees, and there's a lot of work represented in these three bullets. So And you know, I don't know whether when you establish subcommittees, whether you're going to want to keep your bi-weekly meetings. You know, you might want to give these subcommittees some room, and then start thinking about, you're going to be doing a lot of research and thinking about, and they're going to have independent meetings apart from this group. And so one of the difficulties with the mission and vision statement subcommittee was that they had a week to turn something around. I think they did a great job, but it was a bit of a struggle to do that. If they had more room, they might have been able to actually present some actual vision statements and workable to the committee. So those are thoughts.
And I want to add to that, Brian, thank you for that. An important thing for all of us to remember is that once we select our subcommittees and we decide to be an active participant, because our group is pretty small. And so in order to get this big picture realized, everyone has to be working. And so we're going to come up with reports. There's people with their feet on the ground looking and actively searching and putting things together, because this is our working group. And so everyone needs to be an active participant. That's what we're signing up for, essentially. And I hope we're ready for that.
Yeah, this is serious stuff here. This drives home the city council's intention that this committee is a working committee, and you need to pace yourselves accordingly. Beverly?
So my question is, where does tourism fit in all of this?
Well, tourism, I think, looks at, you know, well, let's say you're going to develop programs that enhance the visitor experience here, provide better business service or better visitor services, and provide an atmosphere where visitors feel welcome, as Dana was saying. So if there's, for example, if you've got a business that caters to visitors and we're in the way somehow, then this group here, this subcommittee looking at business accessibility and enhancement, would look at that as a key issue. And when you look at visitor serving potential for a community, when you look at the strategy for economic development, you're going to look at ways to provide resources that enhance that visitor experience as part of your overall strategy, in addition to looking at employment and you know, those kinds of things. You're going to be really looking at how visitors access our services, and you know, how does the community perform with respect to its visitor population. Yeah. These are people that are in your community and in our community, and they are members when they're here. So yeah, that's, you know, part of the strategy. And then how can we, in the same way, if you're looking at the visitor experience, how can we enable businesses to do a better job in providing an atmosphere that is welcoming and provides a good experience for our visitors? So I think all three bullets, you can find a way to reflect that concern.
Brian, this is Dana. I was just going to add to that. I think tourism, you know, is one of those sectors, right? It's an industry sector that within your broader strategy that you're looking to develop, you're going to identify some key sectors where there are opportunities for growth. And through that strategy, you're also going to be identifying and or assessing, are you ready? Can you accommodate? Can we improve on any areas specific to those sector opportunities that you're going to identify in that strategy? So I see tourism living in that strategy, but coming out of the strategy, there are going to be some to-dos perhaps as it relates to the assessment that you're going to do regarding your specific readiness around the growth of the tourism industry. no less than any other industry that you might be considering for growth opportunities. And so I don't know that you have to have a subcommittee specific to tourism, but when you come out of that strategy development, you may have some to-dos that may not necessarily require committees, but are going to require actions to be taken and programs to grow and develop with your community.
Yeah, I think it's important, very good. And I think it's important to understand that the subcommittees, we can, create subcommittees that are really fine-grained, focus on key, certain issues, but then we won't really have a comprehensive economic development, approach to things. I think that's really what we're after with these subcommittees, is looking at these key obstacles, looking at key opportunities, looking at ways that resources can be provided, and then within those subcommittee looks, get into some of these issues that like tourism. So Beverly, you had your hand up still? You're muted, Beverly.
That's great. And I really do like visitors versus tourists, because when we had the Welcome Center open, a lot of the people were not necessarily tourists. They were, from day trippers from close by. So I do like the word visitors versus tourists.
Very good. Mrs. B?
I was just wondering, when you sent out the invitation to join this organization that we're part of, were the hotels contacted, the Hacienda and the Posada, to get representation? Because if we want to bring in people, they're a key factor as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. We didn't focus on any key aspect or we didn't focus on any particular sector of our local business profile. We just advertised just generally for people who wanted to be concerned with economic development, and we broadly advertised. And so I do get some inquiries from people who are in that industry, but I think the subcommittees, you're going to develop in these subcommittees and some inquiries, and this is up to you to figure out, with our assistance, of course, and your advisors and staff, figure out how to query those sectors of our economy so you can get good information from them. They're considered stakeholders. You're the advisory committee, but everybody else is a stakeholder here. And all of these subcommittees can reach out to stakeholder groups at will. You will be able to develop your own individual inquiry and methodology to address these problems with our help. So I just wanted to mention that just because they may not be on this committee doesn't mean that we're going to ignore them. No, that's the opposite. So in this committee, these subcommittees are designed to enable you to do that flexibly.
I was just thinking that we talk about hospitality, but their hospitality and housing are really linked. And I think it would be nice if we had someone from the housing side of hospitality to be a part of this, because they may have insights and resources that we know nothing about. And I think we would probably glean more information if they felt that they were a part of the economic development.
I agree. Yes, and that I think goes right to the heart of the economic development strategy that Helena is talking about, that outreach to the housing industry would be very important. So I agree with that completely. Teresa?
Hi there. I was just looking at Renee's recommendations, and I just thought that maybe we could include community development, because my focus is more on our residents and how do we make San Juan great for the residents and also our visitors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that would be a consideration in the work of the subcommittee then in that case.
And how can we get the residents to be excited about what is here in San Juan so that they will venture downtown and venture around?
Yeah, that's part of your mission statement, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a really key point to all of this is that when we define the subcommittees and get into our breakout sessions, is really going to be incumbent upon the people who are in those particular teams that you're drawn to one subject matter or another to rally in the community and key stakeholder partners so that we can facilitate something and grow and realize some real meaningful goals within each group. And then, mind you, whatever you develop in those groups comes back to the main committee and you're going to report on that. So that's why I said, and Brian mentioned, this is going to be a critical part of what we're doing, because you are the stakeholder. You're one of the stakeholders. You're the one who's going to help define the process and develop things within these subgroups. And it's really important that we go over the information that he's putting out. We're going to get that 18-point strategic plan, which is already written, that needs to be, mind you, the strategic plan was written a while ago and it needs to be updated. And our group is part of the process in updating that strategic plan. That's why it's critical for you to get, for us to get those into your hands, so you know on a bigger scale what we're trying to accomplish. And then from that, we can better define what subcommittees we're going to be working on, because we can't do everything. But we're going to have to prioritize things to say, you know, what's the right pecking order? What are we going to get through what are the things that we can do, and without powering the group by just saying, okay, let's take these in bite-sized pieces, but what are our priorities and what do we want to address first?
I think it's a great idea. And I just wanted to say, when I was on strategic planning, the interesting thing is we put it out there to the community, and what we had was not just our strategic planning group, but we had the community and groups of people that would come to our meetings and do input. So I think it's so important that we make sure everybody knows what we're doing here in San Juan, because there's a lot of interest. And if we can get as much input as we can, get from the residents, the business owners, and such, I think we'll have a great little committee here.
Yeah, there is a sort of a long-term process here that we really didn't take a careful look at in the very beginning. But the long-term process is that you're going to make a recommendation to City Council, and the path to a recommendation to the City Council, it involves public input, and there are great ways for this committee to host public engagement. And so that's a topic for another meeting, I think, because there's some great methods of doing that are really fun and yield a lot of good information, as you're saying, Teresa. So, so I think, Beverly, you have your hand up. You have to unmute.
I'm sorry. I'm good.
Okay,
So I
all
will
right, very
lower my
good.
hand.
Okay, so my question then is, we have these thoughts here, and we've talked about how they can be blended, how we can approach the idea of subcommittees. The question is whether you like these subcommittees that are in these 3 bullets, or do you want some different ones? And I think they make a lot of sense, but that's just me. And I think it would be helpful for the committee to get the information that Helena mentioned, the economic development strategy that was prepared, or the strategic plan that was prepared before. Consider these bullet points here. I'll send this out in a separate email along with that information. And then the next meeting, actually come to terms with what subcommittees you think would be most helpful. We've heard a lot from businesses, for example, about how hard it is to get a permit, or how hard it is to go through the process of opening a business. We've heard during this meeting about a strategy, and we've heard a lot about in the past resources that are available for businesses. And so, these are topics. They're good ones, but there may be others. So what is the committee's sense at this point about how to handle these ideas? Do you want to come back later, or do you want to establish subcommittees and then go away and think about how you might like to serve on any of these subcommittees if you like them? So sort of self-select yourselves and then talk about that at the next meeting. So a couple of choices there. Mrs. B.
I would like to see the information from the strategic plan so that we can maybe put these together and see what makes more sense for our group.
Okay. Beverly?
I would agree to take a look at what was in place before and then come up with where we want to go now. Because that was then, this is now, and we need to move forward.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? About how you want to proceed? Oh, Christina.
So the subcommittees, are there ways that we can get, I know this is a small group, is there any way that we can get like volunteers to help out with any of the ideas and things that we have that we, I'm trying to think of getting more help. That's all, for things that we want to do. Is how can we get that without having people becoming a part of the committee?
Well, you have a couple of things. You've got staff and you have advisors. You have Dana and you have Renee, and these subcommittees can lean on staff and our advisors for help. So yeah, you've got plenty of resources to use.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, this is Dana. I was just going to add that you also have the option to consider allowing non-citizens advisory committee members to be a part of a subcommittee. Like you could consider opening up your subcommittees to non-citizens advisory committee members to, provide opportunities for non-committee members to be a part of the work that's going to go into this. I've seen that in a lot of other places where there's, really informed people that just can't commit to a regular committee, but have ideas and maybe suggestions and resources to bring to a focused subcommittee effort as well. So that's
Very
an
good.
consideration to look at for
Yeah,
that the
that's a
group can
great
make
comment.
that decision.
Yeah,
Excellent,
very
Dana.
good.
Thank you.
Great
Very
comment.
good.
Okay, Liz?
I agree. I think that with Beverly and Mrs. B, I think that we do need to review what was here before, especially since there was a lot of work done, but there are going to obviously be changes. But I was glad to hear that we could employ other citizens that, like Dana mentioned, they may not have been able to do it. And I definitely don't want to make any decision without the missing members. You know, I know that there's some missing members that have some good input as well. So I think we need a little bit of time to review everything.
Okay, very good. Let's see, I think Beverly?
Okay, when the strategic plan, the old one, was in existence, we did have members of the community that's were on some of the committees, but were not part of the strategic plan. And it worked very well. Their input was invaluable.
Mhm. Very good. Yeah, I think Dana's suggestion is excellent. And I think it is a typical approach, definitely. So Teresa?
I just want to say Dana's approach is exactly what we did with strategic planning back in 2015. We had committees, but we pulled in people from the community, and we had so much great input from the community. We were able to do a lot. So no, I think what she has to say is right in line with what we need to do.
Very
And I
good.
just want to encourage everyone to realize, if you haven't already, that this strategic plan is a living, breathing, working document that needs to be updated. So it's important for us to see where we are, to rethink about if there's anything that we were able to accomplish or not be able to accomplish, and look at, maybe why we haven't been able to accomplish that, to help us frame our next steps. Very important to frame those next steps. But the document is not going away. The document is an active document that we need to be reliant upon, because that is the strategic plan. That framework was laid for us to do what we're doing now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to talk over people. If I have a little bit, I'm conscious of the time. So
it's 7:05.
I appreciate everyone's comments, but we are 7:05, and we're going to talk a little bit more. I'd like the committee's permission to talk a little bit more, maybe another 5 or 10 minutes.
How soon can we expect to receive the documentation?
Well, I'll make sure that you get it before the end of the week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in light of that, are there any other topics for the next meeting's agenda, which is going to be March 2nd? We don't want to belabor the time. Are we're just going to?
You mean April?
I'm sorry, Brian, when is it says next meeting agenda, March 2nd. I see it here on the.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep doing that. Okay, no, it's April 6th.
April 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. You see, I'm just reading, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot here to take up almost an entire meeting. So
my
pretty
last
important.
comment, Brian, from our last meeting, there was something that was going before the city council. Are we going to talk about that, or are we just going to table it?
Yeah, no, you can't. You have to discuss it. It's on the agenda, and it's very important because there's a particular schedule here. So
Yes.
maybe with the committee's permission, we can go another 10 minutes.
All in favor of extending it so we can discuss the parklet
Yes.
item?
Aye.
Aye.
go ahead, Brian, if you can update us on that.
So, sure. So I'm just going to summarize real quickly. You know, the committee last meeting asked to have this item placed on the city council agenda to get have an opportunity to present to the city council at the first available meeting where this topic could come up regarding parklets and the extension that their permanent temporariness, temporary permanence. Don't know. Anyway, so and the city council did take it up, and they did decide to extend the parklet encroachment permit until May 31st. And what that does is it allows this subcommittee, or allows this committee as a whole, or a subcommittee, if you will, to look at the parklet question and make a recommendation to the Planning Commission and City Council regarding what they should do with the parklets ongoing. So there could be some reliance on a City Council decision for how long to expect those parklets might remain. And not that they will ever be permanent, but you know, there's a long-term investment here that people have made. And so, as I mentioned to the City Council last night, there are issues here. There's uncertainty with respect to the virus. There's uncertainty. There's investment that people have made. There are programmatic considerations regarding how quickly we can get around to preparing a plan and implementing a plan for 3rd Street. And then there are the questions about the historic character of the community that are all kind of wrapped up in all of this. So these are all things that, you know, the committee might want to reflect on in making a recommendation to the City Council, because these were important factors the City Council took into consideration last night in extending the parklet expiration. So the schedule would be that you would take the remaining amount of March. You would use your April 6th meeting and your April 20th meeting to come up with a recommendation that would be presented to the Planning Commission on May 3rd, and then presented to the City Council on May 17th. And so you have about 6 weeks to get to the bottom of how you want to deal, what you want to recommend with respect to parklets. My suggestion is that you do put together a subcommittee, not just of people who have parklets, but people who don't have parklets and people that you want to bring in to talk about this, including people who are very concerned about the historic character of the downtown. So you need kind of a balanced approach here, bringing in lots of different perspectives, but coming out of this conversation in April, your last meeting in April, which is April 20th, with a recommendation of the committee that can be sent to the Planning Commission. So you really don't have that much time. And that's why I recommend you put together a subcommittee. I recommend that you put together a subcommittee tonight to do that.
We did have a subcommittee, Brian, and that's with people that had the parklets and also people from historical, representing historical, and some people representing, if you remember, that's how we put the guidelines together.
Yeah,
so we have done that.
Yeah,
we have done. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So that parklet advisory committee was put together by the City Council for a specific purpose, and that purpose is no longer there. And we're talking about a subcommittee of this committee that might bring in some of those voices. So I think the first thing here this evening is to put together this committee's, populate this committee's subcommittee, and then that subcommittee can go out and do whatever it needs to do to get information to come back to this committee you know, with their findings. And then for the committee to actually make a formulate a recommendation on April 20th. So you're right, Liz. I think that some of those voices were on the previous ad hoc committee and would be very helpful.
So time is of the essence at this point. So let's, you said it has to be less than 5 people from this committee, right, Brian?
Yeah, hang on now. Leslie has a comment, hand up.
Thank you. Brian, if you can send this group the resolution from last night.
Absolutely.
And did we decide it had to go before the planning commission, or there weren't any real changes, that it was just going to the council? That was a question.
Yeah, it could simply go to the city council, actually. And let me find the resolution. Hang on just 1 minute, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think we're making any significant or any changes to the guidelines that the planning commission has to approve.
No, I agree with that.
Just the extension.
Yeah, let me look at the actual language, just 1 second. In admitting that the resolution was a little bit messed up as to dates, but
it was amended, an amended resolution.
yeah, right. So let me get the resolution.
Brian, while you're doing that, this is Dana. I'm going to excuse myself to step away to a 7:15 discussion that I've got to hop to. Thank you for the time this evening, and I'll look forward to following up with you on a few of the items discussed tonight. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just read to you the resolution. City Council directs City Manager to immediately suspend issuance of encroachment permits in relation to the 3rd Street Transformation Program. That's number 1. Number 2, direct the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee to provide a recommendation to the HRB Planning Commission thereafter to provide a recommendation to City Council regarding the ongoing status of parklets. And 3, extend the term of the transformation of 3rd Street and parklets until May 31st. So those are the 3 parts of the resolution that were adopted. And so it did involve the Planning Commission, even though it's not specifically required. It was felt that Planning Commission, would want to look at the recommendation. There's time for that. There's definitely time. Without even rushing this committee, there's time. So the question is, of this core group, you can establish a committee of 5 people to look at parklets, bring people in, get their thoughts, their perspectives, bring a recommendation back to this committee for your meeting in April, meetings in April 6th and 20th. And that will give you time to prepare a staff report to the Planning Commission on agendize a discussion for their meeting on May 3rd, and thereafter City Council on May 17th. So it all works. We just have to get to it.
So can we get a show of hands of potential participants in this subcommittee?
I think Fran would want to be on that subcommittee.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm seeing Teresa, Darlene, Mrs. B. That's and Chris. That's 4. I'm sorry,
Nope.
Stephanie. I'm sorry, Stephanie, Darlene, Mrs. B, Christina, and you're recommending Fran.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's your 5. So there could be a motion.
I motion that we move to, can I motion? I'm sorry.
Of course you
Yes,
can.
you can.
I motion that we approve this list of subcommittee members. for the parklet.
I'll second that.
Very good. And I will convene the subcommittee meeting as soon as possible, and we'll get started. And then
Sounds
the
like a plan.
subcommittee can figure out how to address this issue.
Do we have
Can
to,
you,
vote on this now?
We just did. Can you, I'm sorry, can you call the names out again?
Yes, Stephanie, Darlene, Christina, Mrs. B, and Fran.
Thank you.
Okay, so did we call the question? I'm a little bit unsure about that too. The motion
So
was.
yes, it's all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Any nays?
No.
Apparently not. Okay, very good. As I said, I'll be in touch, and then we can start to work. This subcommittee will figure out how to approach the issue and who to talk to. Okay, very good. Well, that was fast, and also within the time frame that the committee wanted to adhere to. So,
All right. Well, we'll see you at the next meeting.
So
Thank you all.
I move.
Do we
that
have to move?
adjourn.
Do we have to move to end the meeting?
yes.
I move that we
Okay.
adjourn.
I
I
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
All right. Another great meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Got a lot
everyone.
done. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.